Is Bitcoin's bull run over? Bitcoin is having its worst bull run in history, significantly underperforming every previous cycle. And a lot of people are wondering what's happening. The launch of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF and the election of Donald Trump sent Bitcoin flying to new all-time highs before the halving for the first time ever in early 2024. For the past 13 months, Bitcoin's price has only increased 30%. Why is this happening? Is Bitcoin finally being tamed by Wall Street? Is retail being distracted by the meme coins? Or is Bitcoin boring us to death until it finally breaks out to the upside? We're going to discuss all that, but before we do, I want to bring up my legendary co-host who's always optimistic, Optimus Fields. Our special guests for today, we have Bobby and we have Graham from Voltage. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Let's jump straight into the comparisons. I think a lot of people are not aware of this. Like I'm saying, you know, is the bull run over? Is Bitcoin boring now? Is it being tamed? Is someone in the chat is saying Bitcoin is taking a nap? But if you compare the cycles, I mean, like it's a little depressing. I'm not gonna lie, it is a little depressing until it's not. So the blue line on the top is obviously the first cycle, but Bitcoin's market cap was much smaller back then. That was the 2013 cycle, and it just went bananas, right? Then the orange line was, I believe, Bitcoin's third cycle, so it was 2021. At this point, actually, 2021 was actually outpacing the 2017 cycle. And then as you can see, the 2017 cycle, you know, it was like a 20x in 1 year, did incredibly, incredibly well. So yeah, I mean, if you compare it to every other cycle in Bitcoin's history, Bitcoin has definitely started off pretty slowly. However, big however, this is a comparison since the halving, the performance of Bitcoin since the halving. But if you compare the performance of Bitcoin since the bottom, it's actually on par with 2017. It's extremely similar to 2017. In fact, it was outpacing 2017 at some points. So it depends on where you're looking at it from. From the halving, underperformed. But could it be that it underperformed because, you know, it kind of got ahead of itself with the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETFs? Since the bottom, it's kind of on par with what 2017 was, right? I think 2021, I think a lot of people didn't anticipate that the bull market was going to start as quickly as it did, and then it ended up becoming a double top. A lot of people are speculating that it was because of the China mining ban, it was because of all these reasons. So it really depends on how you look at it. But I will say, I mean, we have been consolidating for the last 3 or 4 months now, just going sideways, channeling between 108K, and I think the bottom was like at 92K. And we've just been going sideways. It's been quite boring. Let's get other opinions from the community. Here is British Hodl. He says, I think the fundamentals of this Bitcoin cycle have changed. They're much closer to what I've been saying over the past 3 to 4 months on Bitcoin podcasts. Boring as hell, but with a 29 to 50% annual CAGR forever. I mean, that's still absolutely incredible. Here's Bob Lucas. He says, as has been the character of this Bitcoin bull market, the next leg up is likely to be violent and unforgiving to those second guessing. Be positioned and sit back. And then he said 5 hours ago, good morning. Final phase of the Bitcoin 60-day and weekly cycles, 2 weeks left, 2 weeks left, then next big leg up. Any loss / capitulation of the 90K bottom range should be bought for a V bottom, but feeling like this cycle ends via time and said as price is coiling here. And last but not least, of course, we got Checkmatey. He's extremely well known for his newsletter. He goes on a lot of popular podcasts, including Peter McCormack's, and he's known to have some good analysis on all this stuff. And I don't have the entire newsletter. I'm just going to read you guys the beginning, but he says, time to move. Bitcoin has now chopped wood for 3 months, and this process has lulled the market to sleep. More often than not, this signals that a burst of explosive volatility is very similar to what Bob Lucas is saying is just around the corner. Good day, folks. The gas tanks are refueled. Enough wood has been chopped, and Bitcoin is now ready to move. Several of you have probably noticed that the weekly choppiness index has blasted to new all-time highs, effectively completing the digestion period I flagged as a likely scenario way back in November. When the choppiness index is juiced up like this, it tells us that the market is ready to trend again. The question is, in which direction? Here's a picture of the choppiness index that he is talking about. So I think a lot of us are kind of bored. A lot of us are saying, like Bitcoin is a stable coin. Bitcoin is acting like a stable coin. What is going on? This is boring. We're hearing all this good news. We're seeing Metaplanet essentially, 48x in 12 months. We see MicroStrategy in 2024, 5x, right? It almost feels like Bitcoin is boring. But I've been in this for a while now. It's my 9th year in Bitcoin, and I remember many, many times throughout, just my Bitcoin journey, my Bitcoin career, being in these moments of boredom, right? And I think if you're holding Bitcoin, the vast majority of the time, you're just it's going sideways or it's going down. You really only live for like 2 or 3 months out of a 4-year cycle. That's really where all the excitement happens. I don't think that's happened yet. I don't think this cycle is over. I think we're going sideways. And I think as more and more people get distracted, as Bitcoin becomes so-called boring, as more and more people just get bored, they sell, Bitcoin tends to do something really exciting after that. Now, I agree with Checkmatey. I don't know if that's going up. I don't know if that's going down. But quick update on this topic, because I know it's a lot. I know it's on a lot of your guys' minds, and we figured we would cover it today. And we have an awesome set of guests to join us to talk about this. So I'm going to pass it on to my legendary co-host, always optimistic, Optimus Fields. Starting off with you first, bro. Is it over? Is the party over, brother?
Dude, it's been over. Wrap it up, pack it up. Bitcoin is dead. No, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of in the camp of I'm just kind of bored to death with the price action. 100K was cool for like one day, and now we're all just bored with it. And it really does kind of feel where we were at 10K. It kind of chopped around 10K for a long time, and then we all got really bored with it. And then it kind of happened again at 69, 70K. We all got bored with it again. And I think it's just part of the way that it is with Bitcoin, where you hit a certain price. If it doesn't start running, you just kind of get bored with what's going on. But I'm kind of leaning towards what Checkmatey's been saying. I've been saying this for a while, that I think this this consolidation around 190K right now, I think it's very healthy in the face of all the crazy uncertainty going on in the world right now. I know people are seeing gold start to go skyrocket. We're seeing, Metaplanet start to skyrocket and strategy start to go up really, really insanely. And in the face of everything going on, I think Bitcoin holding up around 190K right now is very healthy for the market. Obviously, I'm biased. I think that once it does have a move, it's going to be up to the upside here. And yeah, I'm just being bored to death with the price action. I think this is just what Bitcoin does. It hits a number, kind of bores you to death, and then once everyone is really bored to death, or really just like, man, it's over, is when it's going to start running. And I think this is kind of where we are. So I do like these metrics of it being more of a time-based thing. So, hey, I would love to see the Bitcoin price start running in 2 weeks. That would be great. We'd have fun again. We'd have a lot of things to talk about. Right now, we're just kind of bored, and everyone's kind of just waiting for something to happen. And I don't know, man. I think it's still going to be a really strong end of the year. But right now, we're all just really bored. I'm like, where's retail? Isn't BlackRock here? Isn't institutional capital here supposedly pumping our bags? Like, what's going on? But in reality, Bitcoin isn't a get rich quick scheme. It's a not get poor scheme. And so even if Bitcoin was a stable coin at 100K forever, I think that's still better than losing 2% a year in, holding fiat. So, hey, I am absolutely bored to death with this price action, but this is just kind of how the game goes.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up, and I kind of want to share my screen and talk about this. So this is obviously Google Trends. So essentially pretty self-explanatory. This is what people are searching for on Google. And really, this peaked out in 2017. That was the last time Google Trends went explosive when it came to Bitcoin. And then back in 2021, it did half of what it did in 2017. And of course, in 2024, November 2024, almost got to where 2021 levels were. But as you could see, all is quiet on the Western front. It's not really getting a lot of eyeballs. I think it's a combination of factors. So I think a lot of people, there's the unit bias. They see 100K, they're like, that's completely out of my reach. I would, rather, try my luck on Trump coin or whatever. I think meme coins are getting a lot of attention. Also, I think you could make an argument that perhaps Wall Street is getting involved. Bitcoin is becoming more institutional. The days of those large volatility swings are over. They're behind us. And instead of it doing like these crazy speculative bubbles every 4 years, it just becomes this grind up year after year. But I mean, if you take a look at Saylor's predictions from Bitcoin 2024, I think his base case was $13 million Bitcoin by the year 2045. So exactly 20 years from now. And in order to get that, it would need I think a annual appreciation rate of between 60 and 30%. Compared to any other investment, that's ridiculous. And compound interest is extremely, extremely powerful, right? So it's just kind of like save, earn, buy Bitcoin, put it into savings, set it, forget it, look back, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I think you're going to be very, very happy that you did that. So anyways, I do want to include our guests that have been just sitting around while me and Opti have been talking. Of course, we got Bobby from Voltage and we got Graham from Voltage. I'm going to start off with Bobby. Bobby, is Bitcoin boring? Is it done? Is the life out of Bitcoin just being sucked out by all these institutional and nation state players? What's going on?
Hello, gentlemen. Good afternoon. And I'd like to say Bitcoin is anything but boring. What I find interesting is, whoever loves money never has enough, and whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. And our life does not consist of the abundance of our possessions. So is Bitcoin dead? Is Bitcoin boring? No, not at all. What is going on in the world? We see people across all walks of life adopting Bitcoin. The doubters and the bankers, the finks and the CEOs. People need it, and the story and the education and understanding of Bitcoin is spreading far and wide. Now, for those who are emotionally tied to the price, you might be bored, but is the world bored? Is Bitcoin boring? Less than ever.
I love that.
I'm taking strays from Bobby.
That is an amazing response. Also, want to give a shout out to the live chat and the live show. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 100 likes within the first 30 minutes of the show. And of course, shout out to the Rumble audience and the X audience as well. Bobby, that was such a wholesome answer, man. I absolutely love that. Bitcoin is not boring. It's being adopted by everyone worldwide, whether that's CEOs, whether that's the blue collar worker. It's being adopted. And that's a very, very positive message. I'm going to pass it on to our guest today, Graham. Graham, is Bitcoin boring? Should we pack it up? Should we change the name of Simply Bitcoin to Simply Fiat? What's going on, Graham?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very similar to you, Nico. I've been in Bitcoin for over a decade now, and I mean, by this point, I've just completely learned to ignore price entirely and just focus on building. So, I mean, I've been having a great time. I've been having the time of my life building products and services, getting Bitcoin to be used. And it's actually pretty amazing that we're here talking about is a price of around 100K boring or not? Because I mean, shoot, think back to 8 years ago, we would have been like just begging for something like this. So, I obviously do not think it's boring at all. I think that there is a lot of things happening around the whole ecosystem that is a lot to be excited about, and a lot of things that are getting it put to use. I mean, I think that from like the price action that's happening, I'd be very, I obviously don't do any kind of deep research into the markets or anything like that. But I mean, this time is a little different with the amount of like Wall Street activity that has come into Bitcoin. And I think it's obvious that it's having some effect. I think, is it completely stifling, any leg up from here? I definitely don't think that. I think that there's a lot more opportunity to go. And so, I mean, ultimately, I think that there's a lot of new factors at play here in the current market. But That is to say, I don't really care either. I want to build products, and I'm all about the usage of Bitcoin and getting it into the hands of as many people as we can. And that job is never boring. That is still, it's at the peak of all time, and it's going to continue to rise from here.
Absolutely.
Ours.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about that? Could you talk a little bit about, what you're dedicating your life on, which is just making Bitcoin adoption easy, like making the ability for people to use Bitcoin easier?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I guess just a quick kind of breakdown on Voltage. I mean, we help businesses incorporate Bitcoin into their products and services. We do a lot with the Lightning Network because we see that is the one of the greatest abilities of us to get it into the hands of the entire world. Everyone in the world being able to actually access Bitcoin and be able to transact with it. So that's what we basically focus on, is helping businesses incorporate it and understand it. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that we talk to that are just like, hey, I heard that Bitcoin is fantastic at sending money from, here to France, faster and cheaper than anything else. What do I actually do to make that happen? And so we've been able to bring, kind of build a product around that and actually be able to solve that both from the technical side as well as, kind of all the business functions that exist around that. So that's what we've been doing. We're trying to get Bitcoin as used as we can across the world, and being able to create a platform that enables that. Not everyone having to, when I first got into Bitcoin, the way you did all this was building it all from scratch over and over and over again. And that was kind of why I started Voltage in the first place. Was, we got to stop building it from scratch. We got to help shepherd this next generation, and that's ultimately what we're doing.
Absolutely. And my wife's Pomeranian is going crazy, so I apologize about that. But yeah, man, Bobby, do you want to add to what Graham was talking about?
Yeah, I think the thing that's very exciting is Bitcoin, like any other technology, is just going through cycles of adoption. And the cool thing about Lightning right now is enterprises are learning how to leverage its value. One thing we know about individual people and just like businesses in general is like 75% of businesses like fail and never make it to $1 million in revenue. So to think that an average person is going to, scale the Lightning Network is almost naive in some ways. Now, there's been a lot of talk, and Tony, a great developer in the space, has brought up there's going to be 2 Lightning networks. Maybe there's like the business enterprise version and the pleb one where like individuals run. The thing we're seeing with enterprises and Lightning is that they are learning how to run this infrastructure and create incredibly reliable payments experiences. River has put out a report about this, multiple reports. We saw a Breeze report in the last week discussing like what's going on with Lightning and the growth. And Voltage, we've got some great content in a report coming out later this month that you will be very excited to see. And I think it's just becoming clear to the world that Lightning works and functions, and the use case for Lightning and instant settlement payments is going to be businesses. That doesn't mean individuals won't use it, but we're going to see rapid acceleration via Lightning. And the thing I find interesting with Bitcoin Treasury becoming more popular and folks learning about Bitcoin, like the stage of adoption, is what is it? Collectible, medium of exchange, collectible, store value, medium of exchange, and then unit of account. We're starting to just inch in on the medium of exchange portion of this adoption wave. So it's exciting to see. It's fun to be a part of.
It's going to be an amazing show, jam-packed full of amazing content. We're going to talk a variety of things. Natalie Burnell had Colonel McGregor, and he is thinking that the strategic Bitcoin reserve will happen this year. And then during the news segment, we have a quick update. Trump is having second thoughts about his crypto council. So what's going on there? And then JP Morgan warns Tether may sell Bitcoin amid U.S. stablecoin regulation. So even more potential sell pressure down the pipeline. We shall see. And of course, during the culture segment, we're going to talk to the boys from Voltage, Bobby and Graham, what they're working on, any special announcements. I think there's an announcement that's coming in 13 minutes that we're going to be able to talk about, which is extremely exciting as well. So guys, stay tuned. You're listening to Simply Bitcoin Live. Smash the like button. Help us break 100 likes within the first 25 minutes of the show. We're at 84 likes already. Smash that like button. All right, everybody, before we start the show, I do want to give a very, very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. To get started, you put in your email address. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get verified. Bada bing, bada boom, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. What makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. Also, if you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. It's the perfect experience for people that are sick and tired of dealing with UI. They're sick and tired of dealing with very slow support emails, and they want an actual human being they can call or text every time they want to buy or sell Bitcoin. Check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. Also, if you're an American, you can now get paid in Bitcoin using Bitcoin Well, and the Bitcoin will get sent directly to your personal Bitcoin wallet address. Share your Bitcoin Well direct deposit details with your employer, set your Bitcoin/dollar split, and receive sats instead of fiat with every paycheck. Check out bitcoinwell.com today. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video/podcast description. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have tons to talk about today. Let's check it out. Here we go. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water. They put a blowtorch to it. And as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today. All right, everybody. So at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 95,000. And you can also scan the QR code on your screen, take you directly to the Stampseed website, use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $95,940. Block height, 883,606. Sats per dollar, 1,042. Market cap, 1.9 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 9.31%. Percentage issued, 94.39%. Decline from all-time high, negative 12.1%. Realized monetary inflation, I can't wait for that to go under 1%, is currently at 1%. And that's defined as the money supply increase over the prior 365 days. That's continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school, right? So Bitcoin is obviously superior money. Anyways, Natalie Burnell had Colonel Douglas McGregor on her podcast. You go check it out. Coin Stories. Check out Natalie on YouTube. And he had some words, some thoughts about the potential strategic Bitcoin reserve. I think a lot of people were expecting this to happen with an executive order. I think the executive order was underwhelming. It said digital assets instead of Bitcoin. To be fair, it did say that the administration was going to protect the right to self-custody, to protect the right for people to run nodes, to protect the right to mine. It was also going to be staunchly against central bank digital currencies. So it was very, very positive, but there was no mention of Bitcoin. We found out during, while this was happening, And I had some sources in DC tell me that the reason that it said digital assets and not Bitcoin specifically was because of tremendous amount of pressure from the altcoin lobby, specifically from Ripple, which I found quite interesting. Now, according to David Sachs in one of his recent press conferences, it was actually a reporter who asked him, said, "Hey, what's going on with the strategic Bitcoin reserve?" And David Sachs responded to the reporter, "We are looking into," to use his words, not mine, "into the Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're waiting for appointments to get confirmed." But according to the executive order, I think there's supposed to be some type of resolution within 180 days of that executive order. A lot of people in the Bitcoin community still think that the strategic Bitcoin reserve is happening. Polymarket is not feeling so good about it. But if you look at David Bailey, if you look at this gentleman here, they're thinking it's going to happen. And of course, we have to also take into account that a lot of members of the administration, including the vice president, RFK, who was just confirmed, they own Bitcoin. And according to David Bailey, Trump owns Bitcoin as well. And at the end of the day, no one is better than their incentives. Anyways, I'm going to play you guys the clip and then we will all discuss it.
I wanted to ask you about Bitcoin because there has been talk of potentially a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and Trump is the very first Bitcoin-friendly president. Do you think that this could happen?
Yes, I think it can. I think it probably will. And I also think that Bitcoin will continue to fall. And when the stock market crashes, I think Bitcoin will go down with it. The stock market will not recover because it's grossly overpriced. And it's going to take years for us to recover from what's coming. But Bitcoin will recover. It'll recover, and I think it'll recover quickly. And so it will be this store of value in addition to gold and silver that is indisputable. So I think that will happen. Again, I'm not Nostradamus. That's my view. That's my gut. And I would urge people to think in those terms. But I think President Trump was quite serious when he said we're going to look at a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So was RFK Jr. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll.
So shout out to Natalie, always making great content, of course. What are your thoughts, Opti? I think a lot of us had high expectations. And I think a lot of people are also getting their first taste of politics as well, right? We got a lot of wins, like the freedom of Ross Ulbricht. The executive order was a positive one. The end of Operation Choke Point 2.0. If you're a Bitcoin entrepreneur in the United States, that was no fun. There was a lot of regulatory uncertainty. We saw a lot of Bitcoin companies exit the United States because of the regulatory pressure from the Biden administration. So there is a lot of positives, but I think the negatives are, the shitcoin degeneracy, to put it very nicely, right? But anyways, Opti, what's your take on this? Is a strategic Bitcoin reserve happening in 2025?
Well, what do I know, really? Yeah, I'm just here to speculate on it, but I think we will be seeing something in regards to that. Maybe it's not the big strategic Bitcoin reserve that Cynthia Lummis has been proposing, but either way, I think the narrative around a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the U.S. will be a positive thing for Bitcoin to make ripples around the world. And so I really do think that Trump is kind of serious about what he's doing, or rather what he's saying, because as he said multiple times, and that clip kind of confirms the same idea. It's like Trump is looking at Wall Street and NASDAQ, and he wants it to pump, and that's kind of an indicator of him being a good president. And now he's got basically like a second Wall Street to pump, essentially the Bitcoin price. And if both of these things do good, then obviously he's going to claim these as wins for him being a good president. So I think he is really invested in Bitcoin doing well, and of course the economy doing well. And let's not forget his children, even though they are kind of shitcoiners, they are seemingly falling down the rabbit hole and very serious about what is going on in the crypto space. Though there was something that I'm gonna butcher what the general that we just had on, or the clip we just had on, he said something that I've been saying for a while as well, is that like right now Bitcoin is kind of highly correlated to traditional markets, and if Bitcoin, or rather the stock market drops, then Bitcoin will probably also drop. Though it is very interesting now that we're seeing people kind of fall into Bitcoin and then be like, well, you know, hey, the Wall Street or NASDAQ might fall down and Bitcoin might follow it, but Bitcoin's going to, you know, flash back upwards very quickly. And, you know, it's seemingly becoming that everyone is getting the orange signal right now. And people are starting to wake up to this fact that Bitcoin is uncorrelated from everything else. So, you know, I love to see that people are kind of learning. And hey, we'll see what happens. But it really does feel like right now Bitcoin is correlated with a lot of macroeconomic movements. And that's just because Bitcoin is still growing up. We can't forget that Bitcoin is only about a $2 trillion asset. It's basically tiny in comparison to every other global asset macro market. Like there's a lot of global liquidity and it hasn't found its way into Bitcoin. So until Bitcoin does kind of mature and get bigger in terms of market cap, then Bitcoin will kind of be at the whim of a lot of different macro liquidity moments. But that doesn't mean that Bitcoin won't break away at a certain point. And so it is very interesting to see that these TradFi people, you know, people that also wear suits, Nico, are starting to wake up to the fact that, hey, this Bitcoin thing is serious and you got to take it seriously. And here we are. So I think we are going to find ourselves in an era where maybe it's not this cycle, but by next cycle, people I think are going to really, really start to understand like, wait, this Bitcoin thing is a risk off asset. It is uncorrelated from everything else. It is the most liquid market in the world. So if things do start to kind of get uncertain and people are panicking, then yes, there will be quick sell-offs, but it will react and jump back very quickly, because once you understand that Bitcoin is the only thing to be storing, it's a no-brainer that, yeah, this is what I want to buy when there is a lot of uncertainty in the world. So, hey, at least the signal's starting to get out there. I think the biggest thing we've been talking about for a long time on this show is the fact that these conversations are even happening. And I think this is kind of a testament to how big Bitcoin is becoming and that we are entering the mainstream consciousness. But hey, we still have, like the teenage years of Bitcoin to mature. And it seems like Bitcoin right now is kind of, you know, it's like it's that teenage puberty moment where like its voice is changing. We're starting to try to get approval from certain sectors that maybe we shouldn't be. It reminds everyone of being like, 15, 16, you try to hang out with the cool kids and you realize that, yeah, maybe they aren't aligned with what you believe. And then you start to forge your own path. And I think this is kind of a good parallel to where we are right now in the Bitcoin space.
Absolutely, 100%. Graham, what are your thoughts, brother? What's going on here? Is this strategic Bitcoin reserve happening in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think I echo a lot of what you guys have said. I think that overall, like, I think the people that were thinking that it would be like a day one executive order was like, I definitely wasn't that hopeful. I think that that would be pretty amazing to see that happen, and obviously we didn't. But I think that the moves that they are making are like very good to see. Like you guys mentioned, like just their stance on actually approaching these things with some seriousness. Like this isn't even a joke. They're actually considering this, which is, I think that, again, what I said earlier of thinking back to 9 years ago, this would have been absolutely insane that we are even talking about this in a serious context. So I think we've come a long way from like the actual the way that I think that they're going to execute on this. In just my personal opinion, I think that I'm less hopeful on it being a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I think it will be a crypto strategic reserve, and it'll be a basket of, we're going to add in some Ethereum. There's going to be Bitcoin, but there's also going to be Ripple. And like, I think it's going to be a big mix of a lot of different things. That's not what I want to see, but I think when I put my kind of realistic hat on, I think that is probably what would be the reality. And I think that, overall, if we can get Bitcoin on the U.S. government's balance sheet, even if there's some other things in there, I think that's still a huge win. And I think that that's going to be a huge validation point for the industry, for what we're doing. So, I mean, I'm super hopeful. I do think for 2025, I think it's totally possible. I mean, we're talking about this pretty seriously in middle of February. I think that there's still a lot of time to push things through. And he obviously has a task force that's looking at it specifically. So, I'm pretty hopeful of it happening in 2025. I think that the reality, like how it actually looks, is maybe going to be a little bit different than what a lot of the listeners want to see. But overall, I would be super happy if we had some kind of Bitcoin exposure from a government perspective.
Absolutely. I think it's an incredible, very, very well put. Also want to give a shout out to the live audience. 1,400 live viewers between YouTube and X, and shout out to the 70 or so of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button. We rip through 100 likes. Help us break 100. Let's help us break 200 likes by the end of the show. So if you guys are enjoying the show so far, smash that like button. I'm going to pass it on to Bobby. Bobby, is the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve happening in 2025?
Gosh, it's so hard to say. It seems like things are changing every day. I saw the Digital Assets Committee may or may not happen because Trump is afraid of like toxicity or people being combative. And it makes sense. One thing I will say is I've met a lot of folks who work directly with the government, educating about digital assets. And some of these people have said the government is almost forced to take a position of being unbiased as to which asset should be held or educated about. So having heard that the last 3 years, it's perfectly reasonable to see like some teetering back and forth of Trump. Now, this is different than like a strategic reserve. Now, when it comes to like the strategic reserve, I think it does make sense. And the odds of it happening, I will put at 40%. And why is because what we are seeing across corporations and what we're seeing across nation states is adoption of Bitcoin. We're not seeing other assets discussed. And if they are being discussed, it is not a headline. It is kind of a bullet at the bottom of a press release. So, will it happen? Very unsure. But the one thing that is certain is game theory is real and other countries are adopting it. And, let's hope Trump really knows how to get a deal across the line.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you guys. All right, everybody, we are going to move on to the news segment. We have tons to talk about. Bobby mentioned it about Trump is having second thoughts about his crypto council. So we're going to dive into the details of that. And if we have time today, we'll get into the news of JP Morgan warns Tether may sell Bitcoin amid U.S. stablecoin regulation. So we have a jam-packed show for you guys. We'll be right back. We're going to hit the news segment. Let's check it out. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They've built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind for your piece of Bitcoin. All right, everybody, this is Opti. And if you use promo code SIMPLY, you won't get Opti, but you will get a discount to the Passport by Foundation devices. Not your keys, not your cheese. Take cold storage of your Bitcoin. Get yourself a Passport by Foundation devices. It doesn't sacrifice security for convenience. It makes taking self-custody incredibly easy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump straight into today's news stories. Let's start off with first, Trump is having second thoughts about his crypto council. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you guys, like there's some things that I've been very happy with. The freeing of Ross, he kept his promise. That was awesome. That was a huge win for our movement. The repeal of SAB 121, I think that was a big deal as well. The end of Operation Choke Point 2.0, when I was having a discussion with Senator Lummis in DC a couple weeks ago. She is very committed to getting to the bottom of what happened during the Biden administration in regards to Operation Choke Point 2.0. So I think we're going to see a lot of things being revealed in terms of the previous administration's motivation or goal to essentially neuter the industry in the United States. So anyways, this is one of the things I'm a little bit disappointed about, just like I was a little bit disappointed about with the executive order. There's definitely a lot of pressure from the altcoin lobby in the United States, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think that this is why all of this is happening. So here's the headline. Trump is having second thoughts about his crypto council. The Trump administration may nix his promised executive council in favor of informal industry summits. This new plan is seen as a way to avoid rife tribalism and infighting within the crypto industry. The Trump administration may not launch a formal crypto council after all. Instead, the White House will likely gather a rotating group of crypto leaders for a series of summits on specific crypto policy issues, according to three sources familiar with the decision-making process. It is unclear how many summits there would be or when they would occur. Initial meetings will likely focus on topics such as banking, payments, data centers, and Bitcoin mining. Two sources confirm that trade associations have been providing input on the different ideas, avoiding conflict between industry supporters. These ad hoc crypto summits are thought by the administration as a way to avoid conflict between warring factions within the crypto industry. A diverse set of policy disagreements have arisen between centralized and decentralized crypto projects. Bitcoin maximalists and altcoin executives, those in favor against integration with traditional finance, and simply individual executives vying for power. A representative for the Trump administration declined to comment. Trump promised a crypto council in December. Many industry leaders were working under the assumption that a crypto council would collaborate with the working group in devising crypto policy, referencing a post Trump made on Truth Social in late December, suggesting as much. In the post, Trump said that there would be a, quote, presidential council of advisors for digital assets, a new advisory group composed of luminaries for the crypto industry. Chief executives from Coinbase, Crypto.com, and Ripple are just some of the key leaders who have met with Trump in recent months, according to new reports. Unchained was unable to confirm which executives would be called to participate in the crypto summits if this new plan moves forward. Trump said that crypto czar David Sachs would chair this council, and that Bo Hines, a young politician from North Carolina who tried and failed to win a seat in the House of Representatives in 2024, would serve as executive director. Though he has kept a low profile since the announcement, Hines has been meeting with politicians and lobbyists on the Hill in recent weeks, according to one source directly familiar. Unchained was unable to compile a list of who Hines had met with, but was able to confirm that Hines has been helping the Trump administration weigh alternatives to a crypto council by shopping around alternative ideas in some of his meetings. So, I mean, this kind of confirms what we've been talking about for a while now. And I can't reveal who the source was, but I have confirmation without a shadow of a doubt. I actually had an IRL with Pierre Richard, and we were talking about this. Make no mistake, the reason that there wasn't an executive order directly mentioning Bitcoin was because of Ripple. The lobbying efforts from Ripple were enormous, and they didn't want that to happen. So essentially, they wanted Ripple included in this strategic Bitcoin reserve. They wanted Ripple included in all this stuff. I mean, if you look at the price of Ripple compared to Bitcoin, especially if you don't compare Ripple in US dollar terms, but if you compare Ripple in Bitcoin terms, it's just been going down. It's just been a straight line down. Like, it's anyone who's holding Ripple has been absolutely wrecked. And essentially, I think they own like 80% of the supply. They just print this money out of thin air. And like, anyone who's in the money printing business is extremely wealthy because you're just creating essentially money out of nothing. It's what the government does. And look at all the corruption that this whole USAID, expose with Elon and Doge has discovered. Like, I mean, I think what Bitcoiners fundamentally understand is that no one should have the godlike power of being able to create money for free that another human being has to work for. So yeah, it's not surprising. It's further confirmation that there's a huge fight for what's happening. And also, it gives me a lot more appreciation for what happened in El Salvador. El Salvador is solely focused on Bitcoin. They have a Bitcoin reserve. It's completely transparent. It's public. Anyone could audit it. But it seems like there's a tremendous amount of pressure from the altcoin lobby using their own money printers to influence the policy that's happening in Washington. So yeah, it's quite interesting, not surprising. And I think there's going to be a battle. I think this is just going to continue to happen. There's a tremendous amount of lobby of money involved. I mean, imagine if Ripple is able to convince the U.S. government to put Ripple on the strategic Bitcoin reserve, like it would just pump their bags, of which they own the majority of the supply of. Like, what a deal would that be, right? So anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Opti. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pass it on to Bobby first. Bobby, what are your thoughts on this? You actually were commenting about this in the previous segment. I mean, is this surprising at all? What are your thoughts?
It's not surprising. I was talking to a gentleman earlier today who messaged me and said, Bobby, I should have bought Bitcoin at $9.95 and I didn't, and I need to learn and catch up all about it. And there's so many tokens. What do I do? And I had to go through talking through history and all of the things that these altcoins have done. And the only reason they have legs, thanks to Bitcoin solving the problems it did, because digital money and cryptocurrency is just in no means new. It was around like 30 years before Bitcoin, something like this. So like, why all of a sudden do all these altcoins have like a reason to exist? And it's due to Bitcoin having product market fit, being truly decentralized and allowing individuals to run their own node, verify the supply, and send and receive their own transactions, being their own central bank. And, thank God for Adam Back and proof of work. But I don't think the attacks from altcoins are going to stop or slow down. If anything, it will pick up as Bitcoin becomes the chosen asset. And this is because there is an incentive from like a capital allocation standpoint to invest in something that may or may not overthrow Bitcoin. So therefore, will more money be thrown at crypto as it intersects with AI in the energy market? Absolutely. And I think it's just going to get a little bit harder. But luckily, Bitcoin's doing a pretty darn good job. And I think we have some incredible boots on the ground, just, whether it be in DC here digitally on the internet, or just looking back on the writings of, the Bitsteins and the Pierre Richards of the world from the last decade.
Absolutely. I think incredibly well put, Bobby. I'm going to pass it on to Graham. Graham, what are your thoughts, man? Some political warfare. They're all trying to, they want to be part of this strategic reserve, man. Ripple wants to get in there. Graham, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the headline and I read that article, I mean, the first thing I thought is just welcome to the club. Like the infighting, like the people like fighting left and right, stating their opinions about which coin is good. It's like, welcome to the club, man. It's been happening for a long, long time. But then I also think it's like one of those things where one of the things that was a big takeaway for me when Trump spoke at the Bitcoin conference this last year, and it was kind of obvious that he didn't. I think that he understood some of the value of Bitcoin and things like that, but he really wasn't 100% bought in. And I think that this is still like kind of showing that in the ways that I think that if Trump himself and some of his closest advisors were really understood the values here, they would have no question on what is the right thing to do and who do we need to talk to and how do we get this kind of in place. The fact that they're like, man, everyone's yelling at us and we don't know what to do. Let's just stop this whole thing and go in a different direction with it. Just kind of proves that they have no sense of direction. They have no sense of direction, and they're just kind of being swayed, pushed in these particular directions. And so it's kind of it's a little. I wish that they had a little bit more of their own opinions, at the highest level of the administration, that they could have more of a say and kind of go in a particular way. But I think overall, this is not surprising to me at all. I think that all of the people like Ripples of the world, anyone could have seen from a mile away that they're going to try and get their hands all over this because that's exactly what you just said. If they can get into kind of a crypto strategic reserve or something, it just makes them so much money that it's ridiculous. And that's just because they own so much of their own supply. And so it's not surprising at all. This is one of the most frustrating parts about the industry and what we do, even though us in the Bitcoin space we like to separate ourselves as much as we can, but at the end of the day, they're people like this administration lump us together, and so we are associated with these Ripple people as much as we don't want to be, and we are completely arm's length with them. So it's just one of those really frustrating things that is not surprising. We've seen this been happening for years. It's just instead of Ripple trying to go and conquer some company, they're trying to conquer the government now, and so it's just same story, just a new target.
100%. I think beautifully put, Graham. And we also asked the chat, by the way. We have a poll right now on YouTube. The question is, will a strategic Bitcoin reserve happen in 2025? 77% of the chat believe, or 77% of the people who voted, 183 votes so far, believe that it will happen. 23% of you guys voted that it won't happen. So I'm going to end the poll right there. I'm going to pass it on to Opti. Opti, I mean, this is political warfare, man. All these shitcoiners are like, no, we want to be in the strategic Bitcoin reserve too. What's going on here, bro? What's your take?
Yeah, well, actually, I might take a slightly different view than everyone around the panel right now. I kind of think that this might actually be a good thing right now, because as we've been covering, Ripple has been lobbying the government, spending a lot of dollars to basically get their name in the conversation. And as Bobby was saying, having people like maybe Bitstein or Pierre Rochard go to this summit and argue against Brad Garlickhouse, I think that would be absolutely amazing to see. Kind of what Graham was saying, though, it is kind of interesting that they don't really know what's going on. So obviously, if there is people that are making these decisions, and we have Pierre go up there and debate Brad, maybe they won't actually get the signal. But I actually think this might be better than having a crypto czar council that is basically staffed by a lot of shitcoiners right now. As much as I think David Sachs is a Bitcoiner, and he also has a lot of ties with Solana, and he's going to be the crypto czar here. Obviously, we know that there's a lot of push through AI. And so I think this might actually be beneficial for us Bitcoiners. Obviously, I think Bitcoin will win on the free market. I think Bitcoin is the superior asset. I don't think shitcoins can hold a candle to Bitcoin. And obviously, I don't want to see the government necessarily pick favors or, winners and losers here. But I think having these summits, who knows how many there will actually be. But if we could get a lot of the really strong Bitcoiners going to these summits, arguing against shitcoins, I think this might be even more beneficial than just having a council staffed with people that we all know really do have ties to the shitcoin space. Especially, as I said, David Sachs is tied up in Solana, and he was going to be the one that's pushing through this regulations. I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Obviously, they are basically forced to have Bitcoin be added to strategic Bitcoin reserve because everything rides on Bitcoin's coattails. But I'm kind of looking for, hey, I would love to see some of these debates right here, and we get our best debaters, Pierre Rochard, Bitsteins, all of those guys go up there and just destroy all of the shitcoin narratives. To me, I think this might actually be more beneficial. But as kind of Graham was saying, it is a little worrying that the Trump administration really hasn't done their homework yet. They're kind of getting into it. And so maybe even if they hear the Bitcoin pitch, maybe they're still going to go down the crypto pitch here. And so I'm kind of taking a more positive view on this. I think this is probably the best thing we could be saying. Yes, people in the chat are saying, oh, we're getting rugged because there isn't a crypto council. But I think this is beneficial. I want to see the Bitcoin maxis go up there at this summit, really give the Bitcoin pitch here, and hopefully be able to kind of sway the conversation here and show that there is Bitcoin and then there's shitcoins, and then they're not the same thing. And so honestly, I'm kind of taking a more positive view on this. I think this might be a better scenario than what we had.
Absolutely. I think incredible points by Optimus Fields. Guys, we still have the culture segment of the show. I want to give a shout out to everybody watching. We're at 400 and almost 420 live viewers on YouTube alone, and almost 2,000 live viewers across all platforms. So shout out to the YouTube audience, the Rumble audience, the X audience. If you guys are enjoying the show, smash that like button. Really, really helps us with the algos. We're at 175 likes on YouTube. Help us break 200 likes within the first hour of the show. So 6 minutes less, 24 likes left. So smash that like button. Anyways, guys, we're going to hit the culture segment. We're going to talk to Bobby and Graham about what they're working over on at Voltage. Voltage is hold on, here we go. Voltage is a global lightning payments platform. So we're going to talk about this, and they're going to tell us the latest and greatest on what's happening with Lightning. Lightning, I think, is an incredibly important thing being built on top of Bitcoin. Second layer is very important. If we want this mass adoption, if we want people using Bitcoin to transact, Lightning is incredibly important. So they're going to have an update for us on that as well. Anyways, guys, we're going to hit the culture segment. We'll be right back. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's been battle tested through every possible market. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to redefine the future of sustainable energy. Also, got to casually drop this in here, HIVE consistently tops the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. Learn more by following them at HIVE Digital Tech or check out their website, hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Simply Bitcoin Live. We just reached the culture segment, Opti's favorite segment of the show. We're going to talk to our boys from Voltage, Bobby and Graham. Opti, it's all yours.
All right, cool. All right, so before we get into some of the stuff Voltage working on, I know Graham really wants to start this with just a general overview of where the Lightning Network is, and I think that's a good place to start before we start talking about the cool stuff that you guys are working on. And I think at this point, Bobby, we might be able to do that announcement. So if we can, at least tease it. Okay, we got a thumbs up. We'll tease that after this, but Graham, you take the floor. So just a general overview. What's your take on the Lightning Network, where we are? There has been a lot of FUD around Lightning the last couple of months. We haven't really had some Lightning people come on and break it down for the, since around Christmas time, the holiday season. So floor is yours. Where are we right now with Lightning? Is Lightning, going to help Bitcoin scale? I know Bobby touched on it a little earlier. Like, what's your guys' general take on Lightning at the current moment?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're obviously, us at Voltage, we're focused on building around Lightning, and we're continually doing that. And so I think that we see the start of this year as a really big pivotal moment for the growth of Lightning and Bitcoin in general. As you know, there's been a lot of, I say the second half of last year, there's a lot of FUD, people like unsure of like, oh, is this the solution? Is it working? Are people using it? And that's one of the hardest things that we hear over and over and over again is like, how do you know how much Lightning is being used? And that's one of the biggest challenges because it's a peer-to-peer network. It's not a public blockchain. So with all public blockchains, you can see exactly how many transactions that are happening, volumes, all of those different things. With Lightning, it's inherently private because it's peer-to-peer. That's one of the great benefits of it is there is not a big public ledger. You can see all those things. So it's hard to quantify. It's hard to publicly defend it is being used. It's really powerful without having actually, because there's no data to point that's publicly available. Service providers like us have some unique data that we can see to actually know like, oh, this is actually working or this is actually not working, and we can say that it is absolutely working. We have a report that's probably coming out in a few weeks that will kind of shed some light on some of those more private metrics and trying to give some data to this whole argument around like, is Lightning used or not, that I think will be really exciting and really well received because it's kind of been like ominous for a while of like, oh, how much is actually happening here, and how important, how useful is the Lightning Network actually. So we're trying to shed some light on that. And so, we've seen, we're at a point right now where we've seen a huge amount of over 500 million users have access to Lightning via like platforms like Kraken or Cash App or things like that. So we have a huge amount of users that are have access to be able to use Lightning, and we see that continuing to grow throughout this year. We think that this year is going to be a very, very pivotal moment with a lot of some new protocol enhancements like taproot assets and stable coins and things that we can talk about, as well as just the value that we provide to businesses is you can move Bitcoin faster and cheaper than you can on the base layer, and that's a huge value add to people, and people are waking up to that and really adding it in. And so I'm sure Bobby, I'll pass it to Bobby to give his kind of take on this too, but overall, I mean, we're seeing it really succeed in a really big way where we're seeing more users than ever having access, but then also the usage of it is skyrocketing as well. And we're going to shed some light on that pretty soon.
Okay, then let's get Bobby's take, and then you did mention taproot asset stable coins. I know that's another tricky conversation for people on Twitter. But Bobby, let's get your overview on Lightning, and then I know you've been talking about how Tether going on Lightning as a stable coin might be a game changer here. So let's do general overview of Lightning from your perspective, and then we can transition the combo.
Yeah, Bitcoin's slow. And rightfully so. It's been created with, blocks that can only hold so much data. And if you're willing to bid, your transaction will go through fast. If you're not, you are subject to market forces and your transaction will go through for what you pay. Now with the Lightning Network, what's great is you can do one on-chain transaction, open a channel to someone and send an infinite amount of payments back and forth and completely go around these fees and slow speeds. So what does the Lightning Network bring people? Instant global low fee payments. And who's taking advantage of this? Well, individuals, plebs, people at home have been running their own node, taking advantage of this now for, 4 or 5 plus years. But now it is being leveraged and used by enterprises. There are over 650 million people globally who have access to the Lightning Network via an exchange of their own wallet. And what Lightning is really enabling and doing is just for no chargebacks to happen, instant settlement, solving cash flow problems. It's a multi-trillion-dollar problem where, payments go unpaid or they take over 30 days. And Lightning allows these novel payment experiences where payments can settle instantly, money can stream. And most importantly, money can move at the speed that we expect information to pass, right? So it's such a fun time. And, Tether being on Lightning, anyone who tries to fade the stable coins or say they're not necessary likely lives in America. We talk with exchanges and neobanks and businesses across the planet with our global go-to-market strategy. And I've entered these conversations with assumptions from a Westerner's view. And these people who run these companies, they kind of tilt their hat and lean back in their chair and they're like, Bobby, you're wrong. people do not care about Bitcoin. They simply need stable money. And it puts me back and humbles me as a maxi Bitcoiner. And I realize people in other parts of the world just want stable payments so they can live their life, right? And it is a humbling thing to hear and learn that. So to hear Tether is coming to the Lightning Network is a big deal. And I want to call out something Tether put within their press release themselves. This isn't me. This isn't a maxi saying it. This is Tether. They said Tether coming to the Lightning Network improves efficiency and speed and lower fees. So what does that improve against? Well, it improves against the chains that they are choosing to run on top of, like Ethereum, Solana, and Tron. So the fact that Tether says this, to me, whenever I read their language saying that, is it means they're choosing to come to Lightning and saying that all things come back to Bitcoin. Is Tether believes that the Lightning Network is ready and equipped more than any other technology to support their stable coins. And I think they have a good insight into the Lightning Network because Bitfinex was one of the earliest adopters of the Lightning Network. So that's a lot. I'll pause there, but very bullish on Lightning.
Very good insights. And sorry to hijack this, Opti, because we've been actually saying that for a long time now, Bobby, which is, I think a lot of us Bitcoiners expected, developing countries to adopt Bitcoin. That was like the expectation, right? But what we saw is essentially stablecoin adoption going viral around the world. And Alex Gladstein wrote an amazing book. It's called, the title of the book's called Financial Privilege. And I think it absolutely nails it. Like, we have to understand that most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're living, they don't have the privilege to save, right? So for them, having a stable form of money is a way to survive, right? And stable coins are fulfilling that need. I think Bitcoin right now, even though it hasn't been volatile the last 3 months, but Bitcoin right now, I think people still perceive it as too volatile in order to serve that function. Now, I will caveat that with saying that I think Bitcoin is a Trojan horse. I believe stablecoins are a Trojan horse. I think they're a stepping stone towards Bitcoin because it gets people used to the idea of using kind of like a non-sovereign alternative. It gets people to used to using a digital wallet rather than opening a traditional bank account and using that traditional wallet to transact, right? So I think all roads lead to Bitcoin eventually, because the reason that a lot of us are so attracted to Bitcoin in the West is, and if you're a Venezuelan, originally I'm from Venezuela. If you're from Venezuela, and you're dealing with double-digit inflation, the dollar to you is like gold. Like, the dollar is like, oh my God, it's this perfect money, right? Like, we're in the US and we're like, the dollar's flawed, it has 5% inflation, 3% inflation. But if you're used to dealing with double-digit inflation, it's significantly better. Like, you could actually live on it, right? But then eventually, what happens when people transition to stable coins, right? In mass, eventually they're going to wake up to the reality that Bitcoin is better money as well. So I think it's incredibly exciting news. And I was actually in El Salvador for that keynote at the Plan B forum when they made that announcement that Tether was going to be coming to the Lightning Network, or stablecoins are coming to the Lightning Network. So very exciting stuff. Opti.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of pivot here and just keep going and running through some of these topics. Bobby, you did bring up something, and I do want to kind of get into the voltage news here, not just a general Lightning stuff, but you brought up your, what is it, your go-to-market playbook for Lightning. Could you kind of explain for the people what that means, and then we'll maybe do your announcement, and then we can do a general plug of voltage?
Yeah. One thing just about early stage technology and like very niche things that are new in the technology world, it's hard to do it right the first time. We saw that with search engines, we saw it with social media apps, grocery delivery being 20 years early, and now it's like widely accepted. When new technology is deployed, it's rarely done right the first, second, or third time. And what our team has like gone through is just 30 to 50 hours of research studying global exchanges, global wallets, who's doing it well, who's doing it wrong. And we put together, guides and a go-to-market playbook of not only how to design it and implement it, but also we've created the Voltage product so that it makes it simpler for businesses, because through our kind of sales and marketing process over the last 9 months, we've had a lot of people that come to us that say, we did Lightning before, no one used it. And you guys have heard that sentiment. We have heard it. And the thing that happens is often when people design or create these new experiences for consumers, it's not done maybe in the best way with the level of intention that's necessary. And we have built this playbook. We've shared it with people. They have followed it, and they are telling us this is actually incredibly effective. Like, it's working. Or people who believe Lightning has failed, they review it and they're like, we should have known this the first time we implemented Lightning. And it's exciting to see, because now, just like any other technology that's in a very early stage, there's a methodical and intentional way to approach it to where when you do go to market, it's effective. So that's really exciting to see. And there's a design guide we have, which Stephen Delorme, our head of UX, did a webinar today with like 60 people, where we literally just open source and showcase how to do design. And I'll just live share the link right here. We've never shared this with anyone online, but it's design.voltage.cloud. So if you want to build on Bitcoin, you're a designer, you're in charge of UX, go look at it, and you can just steal the 30 hours of research we've done and just, make incredible experiences for those who you're designing for.
Let's go. Awesome. Okay. Here, actually, maybe I could do a little screen share here as I pivot. I'm going to pivot to Graham. How about let's do just the general Voltage plug, because I'm sure some people aren't familiar with what Voltage is working on. I'll pull up your guys' website, and then we can talk about that. And then to wrap up the show, we'll do the last tease, and then we'll give you guys last words. So Graham, I'm going to pull up the website here. What is Voltage? What are we even talking about here? What are you guys working on for the people that don't know Voltage? Actually, first, before you do that, shouts out Nate. I love Nate. B for Bitcoin or B for Bacon. Love him. But yeah, what is Voltage? What are you guys working on? What is Voltage all about?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So what Voltage is we're an infrastructure provider for Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. So we help companies incorporate Lightning into their products and services, faster and cheaper than doing it either via some other provider or doing it all yourself. So what, kind of like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, what we really aim to do is just make the technology much more accessible than this. We have a lot of customers that are, we talk to that are like, man, Lightning sounds great. We have people asking for it, but we don't even know where to start. This whole thing is just so kind of new and unique that we need a lot of help. And that's basically what we do is we help as being kind of like an outsourced Lightning team for our customers, and being able to easily guide them into adding in Lightning, both from the technology perspective. That's where we are focused. We started our focus that is on the technology side, but we really help in all areas of kind of the go-to-market, the design, like all of those things to make Lightning really, really successful. Because ultimately what we're competing against is in kind of the Bitcoin space is those people like Ripple and all these things that are like a quote, chain, but it's just a company at the end of the day that's owning all these things that have huge amounts of budget and money to throw at people using them. Well, Lightning and Bitcoin don't have that. It's obviously very decentralized. There's no one that owns the Lightning Network or the Bitcoin Network. So we are trying to be kind of the shepherds to bringing this into companies and helping them actually use it and making it successful. That's the thing is, like Bobby said, there's some, been some iterations previously where people are like, man, I did it, but I just don't know what I'm doing. It wasn't successful. We're trying to take it, for the full, from, start to finish, really helping companies incorporate Bitcoin and Lightning because we see it as this is what needs to happen for the mass adoption, for people to be able to use it in a very real way and making this all very approachable. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we want, is just to be able to have people come and be like, wow, that wasn't that hard. And this is incredibly successful for my business. So that's what we aim to do. And that's what we're building.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. And like I said, shout out to Nate. I love him. He's a good guy. Toxic Bitcoiner, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Bobby kind of dropped it in the chat. I do have your tweet up here. Let's talk about the juicy news announcement that you guys were literally just announced basically halfway through this show.
Yeah. So, I mean, Graham mentioned our report that's coming out, it's literally in 6 days. So that's going to be great next week. But the news from today, Unbank, one of the longest standing Bitcoin ATM companies in America. They got over 40,000 ATMs nationwide across like Walgreens, CVS. They've chosen us to deploy Lightning into their solution. So, Right now when you go to buy, you can imagine on chain, we were touching on that earlier, 10-minute or longer transformation times. Folks are going to be able to withdraw or sell Bitcoin and deposit instantly with Lightning. So this is huge. Like what's great about Unbank is they really just require your name, email, and a phone number. So as long as you've got a phone, as long as you got an email, which nearly everybody has access to, you can actually get access to Bitcoin. So like their name Unbank, they're literally helping the unbanked. And it's probably one of the coolest companies I can imagine who could be using the Lightning Network. But it's super exciting because, I know Bitcoin well. I was researching them. They got ATMs all over Canada. Now we got ATMs all over America leveraging the Lightning Network. It's just a very exciting time having it accessible for, citizens across the country.
So this is live right now. People go to a Walgreens or CVS and they have a unbanked ATM there. They can use Lightning on it. It's live as we speak.
It's not live yet. They're just sharing that they've chosen us. They're working on actively getting it live, and they're prioritizing it. And I know getting through it pretty fast. So you can stand by for their announcement when they officially have it live. But yeah.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Spreading Lightning usage, extremely exciting. That's really, really awesome. And go check out our boys from Voltage. Go to Voltage.cloud. Give these guys a follow on X and to stay up with the latest and greatest news. Before we wrap up the show, I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, BitBlockBoom. It's going to be one of the best Bitcoin conferences of the year in Dallas, Texas, April 3rd through the 6th of 2025. You guys definitely don't want to miss this Bitcoin celebration. They have Texas barbecue. They have an axe throwing contest. They have, of course, the conference day, the workshop day. Simply Bitcoin will be doing the entire production. We'll be live streaming it from the Simply Bitcoin channel, so you guys won't miss any of the panels that are going to be happening at BitBlockBoom in Dallas, Texas. Again, April 3rd through the 6th of 2025. Scan the QR code on the screen right now or check the link in the description. And if you use promo code BBB21, you get $100 off of your tickets. All right, everybody, that was Simply Bitcoin Live for February 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Nico Moran. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. And of course, our special guests for today, Bobby and Graham. Bobby and Graham from Voltage. Go check out Voltage.cloud today. All right, everybody, love you all. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.